A mark will be required, placed on your right hand or your forehead, and without that mark, you cannot buy and you cannot sell. Let that sink in for a second. It's a 2,000-year-old prophecy from the Book of Revelation that honestly for centuries probably sounded like pure symbolic fantasy. But today, well, we're looking at it through a very different lens. And why is that? Because human psychology is doing something totally fascinating right now. We are actively and even eagerly trading our deepest privacy for digital convenience. I mean, we're voluntarily scanning our eyeballs just to log into apps. We crave these frictionless, easy lives, and our everyday habits are driving a massive technological shift.
So, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a really intriguing theory presented by financial analyst Andre Jick and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Housing, Catherine Austin Fitts. We're taking a completely neutral, observational look at what they call the digital control grid. Now, this isn't about deciding what's inherently good or evil. It's really just a look at how rapidly advancing technology is intersecting with human behavior and the massive systemic shifts that are happening right beneath our feet.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover prophecy or modern tech, programmable money, digital identity, surveillance hardware, the psychology of compliance, and finally, what happens next.
All right, let's jump right into part one, prophecy or modern technology, the transition to the intelligent age.
The source outlines that we are actively moving out of the industrial age and into an entirely new era, one where the actual base of power is knowledge, data, and intelligent insights. In this context, the digital control grid isn't framed as some guaranteed comic book dystopia. Instead, it's presented as a very real framework that's currently being built by connected institutions. The theory goes that if you combine these elements, the central planners managing it won't even need traditional police or courts to influence society. They can literally just adjust the parameters of your digital life. It's like flipping a switch.
Moving right along to Pillar 1, Programmable Money, the financial foundation. The bedrock of this entire theoretical grid is financial. The source points out that the 2025 Genius Act in the United States already created the legal framework for stablecoins. And stablecoins are essentially just digital dollars. Think about the traditional dollar sitting in your bank account right now. It's neutral, right? It doesn't care what you buy, where you are, or what your political beliefs happen to be. But a programmable dollar? That is a completely different animal. With programmable money, the rules are fused directly into the currency itself.
So the crucial question is, what actually happens when you can program money? The source theorizes rules like, say, expiration dates on your paycheck to basically force you to stimulate the economy, or geographic spending limits, so your money literally only works inside your specific city, or even purchase restrictions based on carbon policies. And because laws like the Genius Act mandate strict know your customer and anti-money laundering pipes, this programmable money could theoretically be integrated into a behavior-based social credit system, kind of like what's already operational over in China, where your score determines your financial freedom. This introduces absolute friction for any behavior the system dislikes, which is wild because it completely contrasts with those frictionless lives we're constantly seeking. But here's the catch for the system to work. To enforce these rules on a specific person's money, you have to know exactly who they are.
Which brings us to Pillar 2, digital identity, knowing who you are.
18 million. Just let that number sit with you for a second. That is the number of people who have already voluntarily looked into a silver orb created by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's company to have their irises scanned. 18 million people willingly gave up their most unique, unchangeable biometric signature in exchange for a world ID, which is basically digital proof of humanity.
Now you might be wondering, why on earth would millions of people do this? Well, because it perfectly targets human psychology. The question is, how do you prove you're a real human being in a world of AI? And honestly, that is a genuine, highly relatable fear. We are terrified of deepfakes. We desperately want to know that the person we're talking to on Zoom or swiping right on is an actual human. Altman's orb capitalizes on our psychological desire for security and our deeply ingrained habit of choosing digital convenience over abstract privacy concerns. We will gladly hand over irreplaceable biometric data just to make our apps run a little smoother. So now the money and the identity are digital, but we still live in the physical world.
Enter Pillar 3, Surveillance Hardware, tracking the real world.
To monitor this massive digital system in real time, you absolutely need physical infrastructure. And the source details a staggering buildup happening right now. We're talking massive, power-hungry AI data centers. We're talking efforts to place cell towers every 400 to 700 feet, which mathematically allows them to triangulate your exact location indoors and outdoors. There are commercial satellites beaming Wi-Fi directly to devices so you can literally never be offline. And there are even legally mandated vehicle kill switches in new cars that can remotely disable your vehicle. The sheer scale of real-world tracking capabilities being put into place is just monumental.
But think about it, all of that hardware generates an incomprehensible ocean of data, and it has to be processed somewhere, right? The source highlights Palantir, which is a massive data analytics company working heavily with governments and militaries. Their software essentially fuses data from multiple, completely different sources into one cohesive story about your life. Fascinatingly, the source notes the symbolism of the company's name. In Lord of the Rings, a Palantir is an all-seeing stone used to watch and manipulate from afar. Symbolism aside, they are building what is essentially the ultimate centralized processing engine. But that leaves a huge question. If this grid is so expansive and invasive, why would entire populations ever agree to it?
That leads us into part 5, the psychology of compliance. Why do we agree?
The theory relies heavily on how human beings behave under stress. It's a pretty predictable cycle. Step 1, a major crisis event occurs. Step 2, financial or social stress builds up. Think supply chain disruptions or massive inflation. Step 3, public fear takes over. And step 4, the rapid implementation of controls. Crises act as a behavioral accelerant. They completely bypass the normal, slow legislative resistance we'd usually see.
Scared people accept things they would never accept otherwise. The source connects this directly to human behavior we've observed during recent global emergencies. When people are genuinely frightened for their health or for their wallets, they willingly accept things like contact tracing apps, digital health certificates, and sweeping emergency powers that would normally take decades to debate in a calm society. Emotion just overrides logic. And the real trick is that the infrastructure, once built for a temporary emergency, very often becomes permanent. So, what happens when all these disparate parts finally connect?
Part 6. What happens next? The system synthesized.
When you put all these puzzle pieces together, we see the claimed endgame of this theory. The money limits what you can buy. The identity knows exactly who you are. The hardware knows exactly where you are. When you combine them, you enforce economic rules, you tie behavior directly to societal access, and you enable real-time tracking. It's a closed loop. If your behavior falls outside the accepted parameters, a central dial is simply turned down. Maybe your money doesn't work at the gas pump today, or your ID suddenly fails at the airport. Compliance becomes mandatory by design. It's built into the environment itself.
Now, what is the overarching macroeconomic motivation behind all of this? Well, according to the theory, it's an unsustainable 125% debt to GDP ratio. By moving to programmable stablecoins, which are essentially just digital treasury bills wrapped up in a sleek app on billions of smartphones, central planners can effectively devalue the dollar to save the bond market. And in doing so, they upload all that domestic debt into a brand new, highly controlled global retail market. It's an economic reset disguised as a tech upgrade. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. We are psychological creatures. We are deeply biologically wired to seek out the path of least resistance. We love our seamless apps, our instant transactions, our totally frictionless lives. It feels good. But based on the theories we've explored today, we have to stop and ask ourselves, is this sprawling, interconnected system simply the inevitable cost of that digital convenience we love so much? Or are we happily tapping our screens all the way to the end of our own financial freedom? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.